All right, moving on to track 8. This is You Look Like Rain. Brett, this was your second track from Morphine.
Yeah, I've been looking for an excuse to get Morphine onto one of our playlists for a while, and as I dug back into some of my playlists, I've got a playlist called Lounge Worthy, which is a kind of it's just like this idea of like music that makes me feel positive and like I belong and like everybody existing belongs. Like it's just one of those collections of music that has me feel a certain way. Similar to Nobody Knows, right? Like you hear that song and you hear the opening. I hear it and I'm like instantly feeling. I feel my body react in a way that feels actually really hard to describe. Like it's hard to name the feeling that I get when I hear those songs. And this song, "You Look Like Rain" by Morphine, is one of those tracks. So it was a little bit of a surprise to me to like feel the feelings in my body and go like, is this what I want to put on there? The rest of the album, which is called Good from 1992, isn't necessarily this soulful. Though Morphine is a very soulful band, they're usually a lot more jazz and a lot more rock. Feel like there's a lot more driving sound to them, but this song hits on the album in like right in the middle of the whole album, and it feels like a respite, like it feels like a rest, a way to kind of and even the lyrics, like I can tell you taste like the sky because you look like rain. Like I have rolled around in my head what the heck that means for all of my life since hearing this song, and most of what it feels like is somebody who's parched, who needs a drink, who needs rain, who, like the garden is drought ridden and like needs something from the mother earth in that sense. And so I like to think about it like that, like quenching the thirst. You look like rain. That sort of makes me feel really wonderful, and yeah, it always gets my body feeling something, feeling gravity. I often cry when I'm listening to the song. It's one of those songs that if I really feel like I need to feel something, this is one of the songs that I turn on. So there's that. I picked the video. When you watch it on YouTube, you'll see a live version of it. And I picked this one not for any particular reason, but one of the things that I really like about it is there's this one line where he's talking about sending the horse round and round the track, and you grab the whip and you make it crack. And right then the sax player squawks on the sax. Like he kind of makes this sound, and I like that. I also like the way Mark Sandman, the lead singer, he enunciates the K's in all of the sounds of the recorded version that you'll hear on Spotify. If you listen to it on Spotify, or if you hear a recorded version, it's not so pronounced in the live version, but there's something about that. And Jim James does this as well, where he'll enunciate the end of a word, which is so oftentimes just like the enunciation of the end of a word just kind of fades into the next word. And I think that there's something grabbing about the enunciation there. The whole song, to me, sonically feels like it's falling. Like each of the phrases is just falling in, down the tones. So it feels like rain. Like it feels like the sky is coming down. There's this kind of dragging beat that goes throughout. I hadn't really thought much about connecting it to Baby, but there is this kind of like lazy dragging sound. We don't need to get anywhere soon. Gosh, it just feels good that there's rain coming, and that that it's you, that it's this. It seems like it's this beloved that he's speaking to, and I really love that as well. So Yeah. Sean, I'm going to throw it to you because I know that we've talked about Morphine at times in the past. Curious to get your take on You Look Like Rain.
I love Morphine, and there's a lot to pull on here. I think it starts with, it seemed like the purpose of the band was to break the rules or maybe rewrite the rules. From a 2-string slide bass, baritone sax, minimalist. They very much were prepared to rewrite the rules, and I think there's a good thread here of how you found the soulfulness in this song, and that's what came through. I've been dying to hear you describe that story, so I love that part. Even the enunciation you're saying, when you think about 92 and what's happening at this phrase, this is grunge. Like this is, you talked about sometimes the long tail of a syllable. Like Eddie Vedder seems like he never said the last part of the words. So it's almost like, hey, Morphine's out here, they're gonna rewrite the rules, and so maybe enunciating the word was the thing that was different at that time. So swampy, jazzy, thick. I like the way you called it, dragging and falling down. It's got heavy bass. I think they down-tuned the strings and stuff. So much interesting stuff here. I ended up finding Morphine through CMJ. And funny quick side story about Morphine is that on my first job, I got sent to Indonesia for work, and the way things worked back in the early 90s was it wasn't uncommon for the company to send you somewhere and say, like, you don't come home till you're done. And there was this issue where if I stayed any longer, I was going to have to leave the country and go get my visa renewed and come back in. And I didn't want to be there. I was missing Jazz Fest in New Orleans, and I was like, get me out of here. And I'm thinking, if you make me leave the country and go renew my visa, I might just fly home. So like it wasn't a happy moment. And this is also really before streaming music really was a thing. So my coworker Kevin and his girlfriend Susan, we kind of came up with a plan to import some music just to try to make it through. And so I imported some Morphine, which sounds funny because it's like, I imported Morphine? Well, I imported the CD, and we were laughing that I hope this doesn't get stopped at the border. But this was one of the bands that I think in a troubling time was one of the ones that kind of got me through. And I think this song has that feel to it. And I really connect You Feel Like Rain to like the way a quenching or a rainstorm can quench the thirst of the land or the people or whatever, but that's new visualization and imagery for me to think about when I hear the song. So very, very clever use of the theme to pull this in. I'm glad we've broken the Morphine seal because there's certainly more to talk about in future episodes. And just a brilliant band, and somebody that's willing to rewrite the rules and throw conventional wisdom out the door and do something completely different is high in my books. I love that kind of artistry and confidence and just willingness to not follow the lead or stay on the well-worn path, but to find your own way. And I think these guys did it as well as anybody. So thanks for telling the story about why this one landed on the Soulful playlist.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, Morphine is, to inverse a lot of the commentary you've had about me introducing you to bands, Brett. Morphine is always one that I've associated with you, and it's not surprising that this lives on a playlist about things that make Brett feel like Brett, in all the positive ways. There's a lot that this drove me down the path of trying to learn a little bit more about Morphine and listen to it. And yes, the bluesy, jazzy kind of soul part of this too makes total sense, and not a place I went in my exploration, but just so happy and grateful that you bring that in there, because I think that's a Brett insertion into the playlist, bringing your personality and what you love in there and what soulful means to you. So thank you for that. Some of the things that I researched that I didn't know before. was Mark Sandman and his passing on stage in Italy in 1999 as a sudden cardiac arrest. And all of the theories that came up about that. There's actually some documentaries, Cure for Pain. Brett, have you seen that documentary before on Mark Sandman?
Haven't. No, I haven't. It's been on my list. I'm glad you reminded me.
I mean, we got 3 different movie homeworks now to go check out. But man, this I would like to learn a lot more, because I like, Sean, how you hit it. They broke the rules, and it is a piece of work. This song, this album, the Morphine style, if you will, that fits in a special, unique part of your bookshelf or your CD rack or your mental music catalog of what you need and when. I did go on medium.com. I found a cool article by Michael. I don't know Michael's last name, but he's got a cool website, apparently, that's B-Sides Narrative, that I want to check out now, too. He's a writer and a documentary filmmaker. He writes about this song, compares it to a Raymond Carver poem as well. But I loved how he summed this song. You Look Like Rain is a bluesy, jazzy, down-tempo Waitsian masterpiece. Its atmosphere, a balance of the enticing with the haunted. That's a writer right there for you. But he talks about the atmosphere too. And we were just talking about the atmosphere around the song Baby. Ooh, this is that oozy, swampy, like you said, atmosphere as well. And the baritone sax delivers and really carries that in a lot of it. But man, I loved this one. I always loved when it came up on the playlist too, because it spoke to me about immediately being connected to you, Brett, and the different feeling that it brought about. I'll lastly say one of my favorite things is when we have a rainstorm here in Minnesota. We have a covered, screened-in porch. Anytime the rain is happening, we open the windows, we're sitting on the porch, and we just let it listen. It's like kind of one of the only times in my life that I turn off the music in the house and just listen to the rain. And then we just sit on the porch, and this has happened a lot recently. And as we enter the late spring, early summer part of Minnesota, and it happens quite a bit. And this song is now ringing in my head as we do that, because rain has a feel. Rain has a specialness to it, a recharging nature to it, a downside of it, a depressing side of it, a gloomy side of it as well. So just want to say thanks and love it. Skip, I'm going to let him listen to more Morphine, because he's got to dig into that baritone a little bit more with his saxophone and see if he can shred on this. He likes to play saxophone on the porch too, so maybe next time it rains, hey Skip, bring your sax out. Let's play some music. So, anything else to add on You Look Like Rain?
Yeah, I'll just say one more thing, since this is the introduction of Morphine to Stone Soup, which is, I saw Morphine, I think they were back to back with the Mother Hips on the side stage at Horde Fest, Horizons of Rock Developing Everywhere, way back in the 90s. So, they've got a special place right there with the Mother Hips in terms of being introduced. And I remember a similar feel to what you're naming, Sean, this is a band that's going to break the rules. At the time, they had the saxophone player that was playing 2 horns at the same time. And it was just like, you're watching this and feeling the music and just kind of like blown away. Like, there's 2 strings on that bass. He's making all that sound. And then there's this saxophone player playing 2 saxes and a kit player. And that's it. But there's this sound that's coming from the stage that's just like unique. I love that the tagline for the film Cure for Pain is a pioneer of rock, because I do think that Sandman and Mark Sandman and Morphine, the band, really pushed the envelope on a bunch of things. So, I don't think that they are Marvin Gaye in terms of that level of influence, but I do think that they had their own kind of influence that was akin to the kind of influence, at least for me, sonically. Like, I crave this kind of sound. In fact, I really wish there were more bands out there like this. So yeah, that's it.
Very cool. I love that personal connection, man. That's what this is all about. Sean, anything else to add?
Well, I like that you want to play more Morphine for Skip because of the saxophone connection. And the solo is a tenor sax, but usually he's playing a baritone sax. So I think it would be interesting to talk with Skip about the difference in the saxophones and what he likes about them, and because I think I didn't know too much about the baritone sax. It certainly was like that tenor or the alto that was more familiar to me. But then there's such an appeal to the richness of the bari sax and so I just would be interested to know from, an up and coming musician that's focused on this instrument, what does he think about the baritone sax, and what does he think about putting two saxophones in your mouth and these things. So you have to follow up with us once you talk with him. That sounds like a fun part of the conversation.
Yeah, there's a great music program at their school, and something that they do at the end of the band concert is they have all the bands up on stage, which they can't fit, so they put the upper school up in between the risers in the auditorium. So you're sitting in your seats, but in the steps there's kids playing music. And last year, one of the seniors was playing the big baritone, and he's walking it up the steps, and he's carrying this giant saxophone, but he's not that big of a dude and kind of a scrawny. We can relate to this. Like, he's carrying this giant thing. And I just remembered, like, man, that's like the essence of cool right there. And you could hear him. And I was so glad we were close to him because it, like, just was cool. It tapped into this Morphine scene. And I'm not going to force that on Skip, but I'm just telling you, man, that is cool. That is the essence right there, man. And I'm going to be the dad that's going to insert that. And your Uncle Brett and your Uncle Sean are going to be like, hey, man, Morphine's cool. Check it out. Yep. So yeah, it's gonna happen. He might not know it's happening, but I'll be channeling that Morphine influence. So with that, let's get to a pretty amazing song. You Look Like Rain off of Morphine's Good 1992 or 93 album off Ryko Disc. Here we go. This is Morphine.